What if I told you Isaac Netero's death was planned and everyone in Hunter x Hunter was fooled for 50 years?
No way!
The people involved were Pariston,
Of course!
but also his own son, Beyond Netero.
What? What the fuck?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Isaac Netero was set up this whole time to die against Miriam. And why would they do that, you ask? To explore the Dark Continent, of course.
Let's
Now, you have to be a certain level of crazy to plan your own father's death, but you have to be batshit insane if it was because you wanted to explore a continent that your father claimed that there's only survival that could be found. Isaac Netero was one of the strongest Nen users in existence, having the political power of a country itself, and of course being the chairman of the Hunter Association, which is exactly why he had the power to stop all voyages and hunters visiting the Dark Continent, thus stopping his own son's dream. That is where Beyond comes in, as he orchestrated his father's sacrifice, so his own dream can become a reality, personifying the name of the manga itself, Hunter x Hunter, as he hunted his own father. Beyond understood that his father would sacrifice himself against Miriam, resulting in his request to remove the restrictions of the Dark Continent. A son would know his father's weaknesses. Isaac's was his humanity and compassion, but also his will to fight a strong opponent after mastering his Nen. Like, look no further and let's remember in his backstory where he went to every school and slapped the floor with all of them?
Incredible! That reaction time! What?
And we can prove Isaac was willing to die, as he stated to Miriam that when did I start waiting for my opponent to make the first move? When indeed, it became a routine. I sought the height of perfection. I dreamed of giving my heart and soul to battle an unstoppable adversary. I'm a lucky man. I'm thankful for everything that led me to this point, that led me to you. Therefore, Beyond knew his father's dream and was waiting for someone powerful to release all his Nen, and he would end up sacrificing himself to save humanity if a predator came after them. To kill Isaac Netero, a simple gun wouldn't do, not even a bazooka, but a whole alien chimera ant king from the Dark Continent would be needed who could end the known world if he wanted to. Miriam was simply the gun created by Beyond Netero to kill his own father. At the end of this video, your understanding of the entire Hunter x Hunter story is going to change forever. We are about to reveal the master plan that will make this happen. For 50 years, entire nations and politics of the world had to be realigned just to get rid of this one geezer. Everything that has been going on in the Hunter Association for the last 3 years was also orchestrated by Beyond, by the way. Even the longest arc in Hunter x Hunter, with 133 chapters, was just a prologue to the real story of the Dark Continent Togashi wanted to tell us. Beyond's story starts over 50 years ago. This was a time when powerful nations of the V5 were allowed to go on official voyages to the Dark Continent. These travels were aided by the book written by Don Freaks, which catalogues the eastern half of Lake Mobius. Through this info, the Kukan-Yu Kingdom assembled an expedition to find an alchemy plant called the Metallion. Beyond led this expedition and was successful in gathering this plant. However, they also encountered the immortality disease Zobe, which killed off everyone in the expedition except Beyond and another advanced hunter. Well, I don't know if you call this thing living, but yeah.
What is that? What the fuck is that?
This Metallion plant is used for alchemy. The Hunter x Hunter community speculates that it's a type of philosopher's stone which can be used as a substitute for any metals and elements, especially in chemistry. If it didn't have such crazy properties, why would a nation send a dangerous voyage which has a survival rate of 0.04%, which they knew, to the Dark Continent to collect it in the first place? This means it must possess possess properties not found in the known world, similar to nitro rice, which grants longevity and a healthy life, which is something the rich and elite families would do anything for to retain their fame, money, and power. However, unfortunately, this Metallian plant was also a tragedy of this voyage, as it died in the ensuing chaos. Oh, did it? Isn't it a little sus that Beyond goes on this expedition, everyone else dies or is unable to tell the truth about what happened? Beyond is just as healthy, and he's the only one that can corroborate this story. It's as if it was all planned. Beyond being Isaac Netero's son would have had exposure to many things not known by the public growing up. For example, Don Freaks' guidebook to the Dark Continent. We know Isaac possesses copies of this book through him giving it to Ging Freaks. He has also been to the Dark Continent 2 times unofficially, so knows the lands pretty well compared to any other hunter, especially since the survival rate is 0.04%. Beyond's position as decision maker in all things Dark Continent implies that he was the leading expert in this field 50 years ago, which this position can only be gained by either traveling there or reading Don Freaks' book. So the chairman teaching his son about the Dark Continent and even giving him a copy of this book seems plausible. Beyond was trained and taught by his father to undertake the Dark Continent, as the true nature of the Hunter Association is to hunt and discover new things and challenges on this landmass that humans originally came from. On top of this, Beyond's name is evidence itself. This man Isaac Netero literally named his kid Beyond as a metaphor, telling the world, declaring to the world that his kid will surpass his father and become an even greater menace. Now, look, I mean, we gotta make sure our Asian parents don't see what Netero just did, or we will have a lot of kids named, Beyond Doctor, Beyond Engineer, putter. Now that I think about it, I think I understand why Beyond killed Netero now. I'm getting flashbacks of my childhood right now.
You go to become doctor, you go to doctor, yeah?
Therefore, Beyond was fascinated by the Dark Continent from an early age. However, he didn't want to pursue the unknown world how his dad perceived it, as it was only survival that was there. He saw beyond that mindset of man versus nature. This is where their ideologies differed. Remember, Isaac Netero let Beyond go on the expedition to the Dark Continent, and only when he returned, he changed his mind and lobbied the V5 to stop the voyages from then on, thus banning his son from pursuing his dream. This tells us what Beyond did in the Dark Continent changed Isaac Netero's mind. Think of Isaac's ability and influence in the known world as a superpower who has his own ideology of what humans should do and shouldn't. He saw the Dark Continent as nothing but a place to survive in. To the chairman, there was no challenge in that, hence why he never went back to the Dark Continent after his second voyage. The dangers the unknown land posed to humanity outweighed the glory of survival. This act could render the entire world destroyed, which Isaac foresaw as his responsibility to protect as the hunter chairman. As a result, Beyond is a hunter that represents a new superpower, but he wants to poke the sleeping lion going against his father. He saw the landmass from which current humans came from as the new frontier for humanity, as he says in chapter 340. Beyond wants to go where no one has gone before, promising to take all of humanity with him to their true homeland. But humanity lost the knowledge and technology they possessed, as many of the ruins and creations over there are evidence of their existence and how advanced these civilizations were in compared to the known world that we know now, which means humanity has regressed rather than progressed. It's stagnant in its evolution to their peak of what humans can achieve. The known world is eager to follow Beyond Netero, as 100 million eyes were on his broadcast, and then over 100,000 were calling in to go to the Dark Continent in the preceding hour. We are told in chapter 342 how Beyond's accomplishments speak for his tremendous power and intelligence. With training from Isaac Netero and info from the book is how he had been meticulously planning his dream for 50 years by manipulating the superpowers of the world to endorse his expedition. Similarly, since no one knows anything about the Dark Continent, Beyond Netero wants to set his legacy and name by conquering a land that everyone else was afraid of. By banning travel, Isaac Netero was killing two birds with one stone. He is not only keeping humanity safe, but also motivating his own son, whose power rivals his own, to give him his wish of an opponent he can go all out against, dying in the process. In chapter 343, Mizai Storm even suggests Netero wanted his son to kill him. That's why he restricted Beyond from pursuing his dream. Kurapika also came to this conclusion where he states Beyond was waiting for his father to die all this time, as he was acquiring power and influence around the world. Without the right timing, Beyond couldn't manage an operation of the expedition scale. Guys, this is where things go really crazy, as we will prove that this is the case. Sid, take it away.
So now you're probably wondering, what did Beyond do in the Dark Continent for his own dad to ground him? Well, he went to the southern shore of Lake Mobius where he snapped up the Chimera ants, but also the alchemy plant, which could be used to transmute the ants' DNA to strengthen already adept hunters or humans. Even the encounter with Zobe could be planned, as controlling the immortality disease gives Beyond unlimited time to pursue the Dark Continent, because, you know, it's much larger than the known world according to Don's book, and this man has been cataloging this just the shore of Lake Mobius for 300 years. Like, it's huge. This also explains Beyond's famous line in the manga about how he can wait as long as it takes. After coming back, Isaac realized his son's plan to not only explore and survive the Dark Continent, but bring humanity to this new advancement and ban travel to it. This would cause Beyond to slightly change his plans. Now, his goal before reaching the Dark Continent was to defeat his father. However, he couldn't just kill him outright, as Isaac still had a lot of influence in the world. If Beyond killed Isaac directly, he would be the enemy of not only the Hunter Association, but the V5. Therefore, he couldn't let this happen, as he needs competent hunters if he wants to revolutionize the world by visiting this unknown landmass. No hunter, politician, or friends would want to support him anymore, nor would they fund this idea. Therefore, the expedition wouldn't even be on the table. To bring humanity to the new frontier is part of Beyond's goal, as he declared in chapter 340. He can't do that if the whole world is against him. This leaves him to concoct the current plan we see in action. Beyond first needed a political ally, backing from a nation which was the Kakin Empire. This is the same empire where Kite was researching the Chimera ants in the wild. If Beyond has allied himself here, then his experimentation with the ants happened in Kakin too, which would explain why Chimera ants are found in this nation. We know Beyond was involved in some sort of experimentation of biochemistry through his spy we see in chapter 348. He's a high-ranking biochemist from Beyond's crew, who tries to infiltrate the Hunter Association but is found out by Kurapika's lie detection ability. Now, you may be wondering, how did Beyond make a plan to get away with murder if he knew the association would investigate his true intentions? Well, Beyond responds that he knows nothing about a spy and that he has no interest in ceremonies. Kurapika was watching the video feed and determined Beyond truly knew nothing about a mole, but he presents the idea that his memories could have been erased by an ability. Beyond would do this to stay innocent and let the voyage proceed, or as Kurapika suggested, have an ability of his own that passes the tests they put in place. Looking back holistically, 30 years ago, all of a sudden the Kakin Empire had a silent revolution where they switched from social imperialism to parliamentary democracy. This change had zero effect on the power structure of the country. The ones in power before stayed in power. However, the shift in government type allowed them to change their name from Kakin Hyugyuryo to simply Kakin. Upon this technicality, the nation was not held liable to the Dark Continent Treaty, which stopped them from sending a voyage there. It's very likely Beyond Netero was behind all this. Kakin is a country where glory and status reign supreme, so Beyond made a promise to the current King Nasubi that he could take over his nation and allow it to prosper while the king stays back chillin', taking all the credit. And we all know King Nasubi loves nothing more than his food, his bitches, and more bitches, which none of you have.
No maidens?
Through Cheeto, in chapter 340, we are also informed that after this revolution, the Hakin Empire's economic growth shot up out of nowhere. If the power structures remained the same with just the name being changed for the sake of invalidating treaties, then this country would have stayed around the same power level. The only way to explain this sudden growth is through Beyond's help. Taking control over an entire nation is a tall task. Stuff like that doesn't just happen overnight, especially an ancient empire like Heen. So Beyond spending 20 years to achieve this is not a surprise. Through the reactions of the Zodiacs upon hearing Beyond's heritage and his support of Kakin, we can tell they knew nothing. If he moved fast in his plan, more people would have figured him out and tried to thwart him. It's like how clouds look stationary if you just glance at them, but they are in fact moving. This takes us to 3 years ago when Pariston Hill was appointed as vice chairman to the Hunter Association by Isaac Netero. The Zodiacs tell us that he did that because Isaac Netero was just crazy. He found amusement in having Pariston get in his way. But after the revolution of Pariston being Beyond's number 2 man, it comes as no surprise Isaac would want Pariston close to monitor him. He does the same thing with Sayu of the Zodiacs, who is revealed to be a spy by Kurapika in chapter 348. It's like the saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. The reason for Pariston joining 3 years ago and not 10 years ago or 5 years ago or even a year ago was due to a breakthrough Beyond's team had in terms of the biochemistry experimentation on the Chimera Ant. It took them 3 years to set things in motion because they wanted a semi-level of control in the association to 100% guarantee Isaac Netero faces off against the Ant King. We see this happen through Pariston actively restricting hunters from helping the Chimera Ant extermination and not letting hunters with suitable abilities to aid the chairman. Pariston also needed time to grow his influence to rival Isaac through his temp hunters. We are also told that 18 hunters have gone missing since Pariston became the vice chairman. Ms. Ice Storm says that hunters dying isn't an oddity, but them going missing is the rarest. It's possible these 18 missing hunters were used by Beyond in his experimentation with the Chimera Ant genes, and 3 years later, they figured it all out. At the start of the Chimera Ant arc, all the pieces fell into place. Pariston had his influence, the Kakin Empire was ready with their Whale One ships, the Chimera Ant Queen's birth was completed. Doesn't it seem extremely convenient that this Ant Queen washed up on the shores of the only country which has no communication to the outside world, slowing the flow of information to the Hunter Association, which would allow for the Queen to create a hive strong enough to rival the chairman. The Chimera Ants learning about Nen also seems orchestrated. By sheer coincidence, Puckle and hunters are also in the NGL searching for magical beasts. We know how hard it is to enter the NGL, even for a hunter, and with Pariston having so much control in the association, it would be a small task for him to make sure a few hunters are present at the same time the ants need to evolve. The Ant Queen herself doesn't seem natural. If she had just washed up on the shores of the unknown world from the Dark Continent, why does she show human traits already? Why would the first generation of Chimera Ants have no fish characteristics, considering the Queen almost exclusively ate fish? The Queen also lets her squad members name themselves, approving their individuality. And she herself indulges in this human trait through her last wish of naming Miriam. If she was just a natural phenomenon, this shouldn't be possible. The Ant Queen had to have been bioengineered by humans with human DNA for her to express these desires, which could be possible as Beyond still had the Metallian plant from the Dark Continent. Furthermore, they had a failsafe with the Rose Bomb if the Ant King became too powerful, as Netero had a poor man rose implanted within himself that would go off when he died. So with this plan, Beyond and Pariston also gained 5,000 Chimera Ants who can wield Nen as mentioned by Jing Freaks. These 5,000 ants could be on the Whale One ship being transported to the Dark Continent. The ants would fulfill the strength part of the requirement needed to traverse and settle the Dark Continent. The Kakin Empire gave Beyond a safe haven and privacy to conduct experimentation with the Chimera Ants, and Pariston's infiltration allowed Beyond to gain unrivaled political power in the Hunter Association to have Netero killed. Is it a coincidence that the strongest hunters and Nen users we know in Hunter x Hunter are aboard this ship too. The Zodiacs, Kurapika, Leorio, Hisoka, Illumi, the entire Phantom Troop, Jing Freaks, even the Mafia family's top class are all going to the Dark Continent. They may have their differences now, but once they reach the shores of Lake Mobius, the only thing that matters is survival, for which they have to depend on each other. Humanity needs all their finest to conquer the Dark Continent, and Beyond with his 50-year plan has realized his dream by killing his own father. If you thought this was a crazy theory, be sure to check out our theory where we explain and basically reveal that Jing is actually 300 years old and he is Don Freaks.